Okay, so what did we do last class? Actually first I think we have a new student today. Michael, hi. Uh what grade are you in? I didn't hear you. Oh, fourth?
Yeah,
Fourth grade?
fourth.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. I think some of you guys probably know him then. All right. So
Huh? Oh,
no, I was just saying that some of the other students might know you.
yeah, no. Uh,
Okay. All right. So uh all right, then what did we do last class? So I think we mainly were looking at the start of like the opening principles, right? So what you should do in the opening to get ready to play in the middle game and the end game and stuff like that, right? So we'll review that real quick in the rest of the class, but for now, let's just do some basic puzzles. So right now, we're just doing all mate in one tactics, super basic, and then we'll get more advanced as the year progresses, alright? We'll start looking at more tactical themes and stuff like that. Okay, so this is white to move, and it's checkmate in one move. So if you know the answer, you can just raise your hand through Google Meet, and I'll call on you. So white to move and checkmate in one move. Adrian.
Queen D8.
Nice, yeah. Queen D8 checkmate. Alright, so you guys can see this bishop is defending the queen, and the king is can't move here or here because of its own pieces. Can't move to E7 or D7 because the queen is defending both of those squares. Alright, let's go to the next. Just give me a second. Yeah, I already have. Okay, alright. This is white to play again, and it's checkmate in one, so same thing. Oh, Dave. Oh, was that an accident? So white to move. So remember, one thing that I told you guys to focus on were forcing moves, right? And forcing moves are. Does anybody remember? Want to tell me what a forcing move was? Does anybody remember? You could just shout it out.
Um,
Yeah. Oh, okay. So, all right. Just as a reminder, forcing moves are just any move that is a check, a capture, or a threat, right? So, in here, one example of a forcing move could be queen takes c6 check, right? Because you're taking, which is capture, and you're giving a check. So that's two in one. Or another forcing move could be bishop takes e6, and that's another forcing move because it's a capture, right? So now, in when we're doing these puzzles, the main thing to look for is forcing moves, right? And in specific, forcing moves that give a check. So how about Dave? What do you think is a possible move? You're on mute.
Queen to F7.
Nice, yeah. Queen takes f7. So because of this, the knight is defending our queen, so the king can't take, right? The king also can't go to d8 or f8, and then d7 and e7 are both defended by the queen. So this king is trapped, and it can't capture, and there's no way to block. So this is a checkmate. Nice. Okay, what about here? This is black to play, and checkmate in one move. So remember, look for a forcing move. I'll just type out what a forcing move is in the chat.
What is that?
All right. Vishnu.
I forgot.
Okay. All right. That's fine. All right. How about you guys give me a list of possible checks that are possible that black can play. We can just go. I'll just like ask each of you. How about Mateo? What's one possible check? You're on mute. Yeah.
Queen to D. I mean, queen to F2.
Yeah. Okay. Queen to F2. That's a possible check, right? Because it's attacking. How about Adrian? What's another possible check?
Queen to G1.
Okay. Queen to G1. That's another possible check. Vishnu. What's another possible check?
Same as Adrian.
Okay. Can you think of a different check though?
Oh, Queen to A1.
Yeah. Queen to A1. That's another possible check. Michael.
Queen to king.
Yeah. Which square?
Yeah. King. Queen to king.
Here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Queen E3.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
another one.
Yeah.
Okay. And Dave, what about one more possible check?
Queen to E4.
All right, Queen E4, nice. You guys gave 5 possible checks, so there's a lot of possibilities, right? So let me just play a random move, and then I will show you guys the position. Okay, so this is the position, right? So you guys said Queen F2, Queen E3, Queen E4, Queen A1, and Queen G1, right? So let's look at them one by one. So Queen F2, I think, yeah, I mean, it is a check, but obviously it's not a very good one. So unfortunately, it doesn't work because the queen just takes. Alright. But I wasn't asking for a good check, so I was just asking for any check. So, yeah, obviously, you need to consider every possibility before you rule out a possibility. Because in some positions, it might look like a move is super blatantly wrong, but once you look deeper, there is actually a possibility to win with that move. Okay, and then, see, what was another one? Queen e3. Again, not a very good check, right? Because what can white play in this position? Dave?
The queen can take.
Exactly, right? Queen takes e3. So that's not very good. Queen e4, it's not a bad check, right? But the problem is it's not mate in one. So let's say the king just goes to like f2 or something. Then white will be fine. Queen a1, same thing. It's a good check, except it doesn't really achieve much, right? The king can just go to f2 again, and white is fine. But queen g1, I think Adrian suggested this move. This is actually pretty good because now looks like. All right, there we go. Okay, so queen g1. So this is checkmate, right? So you guys can see the king has 6 squares around it. So let's just look at each one and see if it can move there. So king obviously can't go to d2, and it can't go to e2 because our pawn is defending that square, right? The king can't go to f2 or f1 because our queen is defending both of those squares. And the queen can't go to d1 because our queen is also indirectly defending that square, right? Because the king can't move here because it would be in the same row as the queen still. You guys get that?
Yeah.
Alright, great. So, and now there's also no way to block, right? So, last time we were talking about forcing moves, but we were also talking about something else. We were talking about an acronym called CBM. Does anybody remember what that stood for? It was for things that you can do while you're in check. There's 3 genres of moves that you can play. Vishnu?
Capture, block, and move.
Nice, exactly. Capture, block, and move, right? So just think, if you're ever in check, just think of the acronym CBM, and then you'll probably find the best move to play. All right, capture, block, or move. So here, our queen can't be captured. There's no way to block this check, right? There's no piece that white can put onto f1 and defend, and there's no place that the king can move. So this is checkmate. All right, let's go back here. So I'll just show you guys queen g1. That was the right move. Alright, we can do a few more of these and then we'll probably move on to the actual. So how about here? This is black to play and mate in 1. Alright, what are some checks that you guys found? If you find the checks, then you should be able to find the right answer here. Mate in 1, black to play. Adrian?
Queen G2.
Nice, queen takes g2, right? So this is checkmate because the king obviously can't move anywhere around it because uh, our queen is defending all those squares. Can't go to h2 because of its pawn, and the king can't take because our bishop all the way in this corner is defending our queen, right? So this is checkmate. There's no way to block, and there's no move, and the king can't capture our queen. All right, is there any questions? No? All right then. Okay, I think that's probably enough for now. We did 15 minutes of that, so let's move on to the actual what we're gonna do. Okay, so I think last time we were looking at opening principles, right? So what you should do in the opening. And I listed 3 major things that you should do in the opening. Can anybody tell me the first thing that we were trying to do in the opening? Adrian?
Pawn goes to e4.
Nice, yeah. So pawn e4, it doesn't necessarily just have to be pawn e4. You can go pawn d4 or something. Basically, you just want to move a pawn into the center, right? And if you guys forgot, the center is these 4 squares. There's 64 squares on the chessboard, right? 8 here, so 64 in the array. And these are the 4 central squares. So if you control the center, just know that you'll have a better game than your opponent. It'll be easier to play, right? So if you control these squares. So the first thing is to move a pawn into the center. So d4 or e4. I think last time we looked at e4, right? I played e4 for you guys in the example. This time let's say d4 instead. Or d4, pawn into the center. Now how about for black? Black is going to do the same thing. Can someone other than Adrian suggest a move for black to move a pawn into the center? Yeah, Dave? Did you raise your hand?
Yeah. Pawn to d5.
Alright, nice. Pawn to d5, right? That's moving one of black's pawns into the center, so that's good. Alright, so I'll just like type this out. First is to move a pawn into the center. Alright, that's the first thing you want to do in the opening. Alright, then what's the second thing? You want to start developing your minor pieces, right? Does anybody remember which ones the minor pieces are? there's the minor versus the major pieces. Which ones are the minor pieces? All right, so the minor pieces were the knights and bishops, right? So white has four minor pieces, the two knights and two bishops, and black has their two knights and two bishops, right? So, and then the major pieces in contrast are the two rooks, the queen, and the king, right? So it's the same either way. So the yellow pieces are the minor pieces, and the red pieces are the major pieces, right? And it's mostly just a vocabulary term. There's no like real use to knowing it, except that it's helpful when I'm like talking about like minor pieces versus major pieces. So how do you develop your minor pieces? You want them to be attacking the center, right? So what is one possible move for white where he can attack into the center? All right, Adrian.
Um, knight, knight f3.
Nice, knight f3, right? And then now that's attacking into the center, the d4 and e5 squares. And just in case you guys forgot about the notation, so let me just like review notation real quick, how you guys say the moves, right? So there's letters at the bottom, A through H, and there's numbers at the top, 1 through 8, right? So if you want to say the name of a certain square, then you'd first say the letter, so F, you'd go down and say the letter F, and go all the way to the left or right, depending on if you're white or black, and then C5. So this square is F5. This square is go down B6. It's the same version for black, right? So for example, this square is D2, alright? So that's just a way to notate what move it is, right? And that's really helpful. Okay, so white plays knight f3. What about a move for black to develop one of his minor pieces into the center? Okay, Adrian.
Knight,
Yeah.
knight b6.
The knight can't move to b6. Do you mean c6?
Yeah, c6.
Alright, knight c6. Yeah, that's another good move, right? Now the knight is attacking into the center. So now both white and black are also going to continue, right? So how about a move for white now? I'll just go around and ask each one of you, and then because there's enough moves. How about let's start with Mateo. What is one move for white to develop one of his pieces to attack the center? Oh, Mateo, you're on mute. Okay, he might have stepped away for a moment. All right, what about Vishnu? What is one move for white to develop a piece to attack the center?
Bishop to F F4.
Nice, yeah, bishop f4, right? Okay, that's a good one to attack e5. I think Mateo, you just got back, right? How about you can try a move for black to attack one of the squares in the center and develop one of your pieces. Oh, you're on mute.
Knight to E5.
Okay, that's an interesting one, right? So you have the pieces in the center, and one important, I think I haven't taught you guys this, is never move the same piece twice in the opening. So this brings up a good teachable moment. So we already moved the knight once to c6, right? And if we move it again to e5, then we move the same knight 2 times, right? That's usually not good, all right? And I could give you the explanation for that, but it's a bit advanced, so I don't think it's really necessary. Just know this: don't move the same piece twice in the opening. It basically just gives your opponent more time to develop different pieces. So knight e5, it also isn't it's not the best move, right? Because it's like well defended by white, so he might just be able to capture. But yeah, that's try not to move the same piece twice in the opening. So what about a different piece, Mateo? Maybe like this knight or this bishop. You're on mute. Think about.
Bishop to e5.
You mean f5?
Yeah.
All right, nice. Yeah. Bishop f5. So with this, the black bishop is attacking the e4 square, right? Okay, let's go white. What about uh Michael? What about a move for white to develop one of his minor pieces?
One of the pawns can go to let's behind the black pawn, behind the black pawn.
You want to try using like the notation. So like,
Oh,
example.
those ones, yeah,
So
that can work.
e4.
Yeah, it can defend when the black is coming like this.
Okay, so you want to play pawn to e4, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's not a bad move, right? You can now at least open up the file for your bishop, right? So, but there is like a small problem. So e4, I suggest a better move, slightly better, is e3, all right? And I'll just show you why. So e4, the problem is you have 2 pawns in the center now, right? But this one pawn is undefended, and it's being attacked by 2 of your opponent's pieces, so it can get captured, right? So that's, you just end up losing a pawn. And even though now your bishop, you can move out your bishop, for example, it's not worth losing a pawn just to move out your bishop, right? So on the other hand, you could just play e3, and it's still technically defending the center, right? You're defending this d4 square, and the next move you can move out your bishop. So e3 is slightly better, okay? Because e4, it usually just unnecessarily loses a pawn. That was good. Okay. And what about for black, Dave? What's the move to develop into the center?
I think knight to f6.
Nice, knight to f6.
Okay.
That's pretty good, because now it's attacking the not the e4 and d5 squares, right? Alright, let's go to white again. So I'll just like play a few more moves because I think you guys got the hang of it, right? Basically, you just want to develop your minor pieces, so your knights and bishops, to attack the center, right? So another move, let's say bishop to d3, right? And now it would be bad if black just played a random move, right? Because what is white gonna play if black plays a move like a6? What's white's best move here? Can anybody see? Adrian?
Castle.
Okay, so castles is a good move, but there's an even better move. You should always be on the lookout for tactics and tactical ideas. And sometimes it's maybe just a free piece. Think about which ones of black's pieces are undefended. Mateo?
Bishop f5.
Nice, bishop takes f5. So this bishop on f5 for black was undefended, right? And now we're able to capture with our bishop. So you always have to be on the lookout for these tactical ideas. Sometimes your opponent might just end up hanging a piece like this, right? He played a6, and without realizing his bishop was undefended. Now you can take that. Okay. So black probably won't play a6, right? Let's say he plays a better move like, let's say he takes our bishop, right? Now we have to take back. We could take back with the queen or with the pawn. What do you guys want to do? Either way, I think it doesn't really, it's like pretty much the same either way. What do you guys think is better?
Pawn.
Alright, sure, pawn.
Pawn.
Alright, we'll take with the pawn.
Pawn.
Okay, alright, now it's,
Click this.
sorry, did someone say something? Okay, alright then, now it's black to play. Let's say he plays e6, right? Now, I don't think I talked about this actually, but notice e3 and e6, right? This was a move by white, and e6 now a move by black, right? And while it's not necessarily an immediate developing move, right? I told you guys try and develop your minor pieces as quickly as possible. It's not immediately developing, right? It's just a pawn move. But the next move, we can move our bishop, and that's important. So sometimes you have to prepare a plan, right? It's not just a one-step game. You have to think through multiple steps. So the first step, move out a pawn, and the next step, you can move out your bishop for more activity, right? Okay, so e6, and now the move that Adrian suggested prior to castle, right? And that was the third opening principle. Oh, I didn't even type the second. So second opening principle is develop minor pieces into the center, or to attack the center. It doesn't have to be into the center, right? It could just be attacking squares in the center. You can notice that there's no actual knights or bishops in these four squares, right? But look at it. This knight is attacking e4 and e4 and d5. The black knight, other black knight is attacking d4 and e5. Our bishop is attacking e5. Our knight is attacking d4 and e5, right? So even though the minor pieces aren't actually in the center, they still have a lot of influence, right? They're still attacking these squares, and that's important. So after developing your minor pieces in the center, you want to castle, right? And I think this is where we ended off last time. So castling, if you guys forgot, is basically the king moves two squares to the side and the rook jumps over. And this can only happen if the king hasn't moved yet, the rook hasn't moved yet, and if the two squares are clear, right? Between the king and the rook. So it's a pretty special rule, and the reason it's helpful, does anybody remember why I said it's helpful to castle? Adrian?
You could protect your king.
Exactly, right? Now your king is super well protected. Before, notice that there's these open squares in front of the king, and in case your opponent's pieces got in those squares, they could get a checkmate, right? Now, with this, our king is just like has a wall of pawns in front of it, a rook on this side, and then this other knight right here to defend, right? So it's super well protected, and you should always protect your king. That's a very important rule, right? Because if you lose your king, you lose the game. So castle. Alright, now let's say black plays bishop d6, right? And now he's attacking our bishop. Now, let's just continue developing our minor pieces. What if we play knight c3, right? Now, even if, notice that it was different. Before, in this position, I was saying after bishop d3, if black played a move like a6, then we could just take the undefended piece, right? His bishop on f5 was undefended. But here, notice, our pawn on e3 is defending our f4 bishop. So that was another useful reason to play e3, right? We defended that bishop. So now we can play another move like knight to c3. And then he'll take on f4 and we take back with our pawn. So this is a interesting phenomenon. It's called doubled pawns, where there's two of our same color pawns on the same file, and usually this isn't a very good thing, right? And we'll learn more about this in later classes. It's a more advanced topic, but for now we shouldn't really worry about it. All right, doubled pawns aren't too much of a problem. Okay, So E takes F4. So now here is where we enter the next phase of the game. Now the opening has ended, right? We finished the main three opening principles. Move a pawn into the center, develop minor pieces to attack, like into the center, right? And then we castled. Let me just play black's. Black's gonna castle right now, okay? So now both sides have finished their opening. So now we start the second phase of the game, right? Remember, there's three phases in a chess game. There's the opening, middle game, and end game. Opening, which we just discussed, is these three main opening principles. Once you complete those, then you move on to the middle game. The middle game is usually the bulk of the game, what happens like mostly, all right, and where the most things happen, right? You have a bunch of different strategies, you combine tactics, and then all your like tactics knowledge comes into use here. You can attack, sometimes you have to defend, and there's a lot of different like types of plans you have to enact, right? If you want to play in the middle game, all right? But usually, what I found is that at the lower level, like where you guys are at, like probably at the 800 to 1000 range, then you guys, it's like pretty standard sense of play, as long as we'll discuss like some basic middle game principles, but most of the time you should be fine as long as you don't blunder any pieces, right? And just to make sure that doesn't happen, we'll later classes we'll discuss some important strategies, right? But usually what I do is after I cover the opening, I jump into the third phase of the game, which is the end game. Okay, and the end game is basically after the middle game, most of the pieces get exchanged, and maybe one side has an extra pawn or an extra piece, right? And you have to use that a very limited number of pieces to somehow win the game, right? So let's just say mainly the end game starts after the queens are exchanged, alright? Just know that. So after the queens are exchanged, then the end game starts because it's harder to get an attack going. So before we do like the end game, I just want to ask if you guys have any questions so far on any of the opening principles. Any questions? No? Alright, so I don't want to start the end game right now because there's only 10 minutes left and we wouldn't really get very far. But what we can do is, let's see, I can tell you guys about openings, right? So in chess, there's a set of specific openings that have special ideas that can help you um, get better positions, right? So here we just played a bunch of standard moves that you might see in any 800 to 1000 level chess game, right? But in some cases, which is what we're going to learn specific openings, right? That sometimes they may deviate from the opening principle slightly. Like this is called the Queen's Gambit, alright? And it's a type of chess opening, alright? Or that's something that I play. And I'll show you something else I play, is if I'm black and my opponent plays e4, I play c6. And you can see that it's not directly moving a pawn into the center, right? It's moving a pawn to the side. This is called the Caro-Kann. And it's another type of opening, right? And by the end of like these classes, at the end of the year, I think I'm gonna have you guys at least have learned one opening for white and one opening for black, alright? And with that, you guys will be able to have a lot of good games, right? You'll get better positions that your opponent doesn't know how to play, but you know how to play better. Okay? Alright, so let's do something. Alright, let me create a new game. Alright, we're gonna start with like this. Alright, so it's gonna be a blank board like this, and I'm gonna have you guys split into teams. Alright, since there's an odd number of people, let's just put Mateo, Vishnu, and Dave are on one team, and Adrian and Michael are on the other team. Alright, so what you're gonna so Adrian and Michael, you guys will be white, and then Dave, Mateo, and Vishnu, you'll be black. Alright, and each of you is going to get a turn to play a move, alright? And you have to play through the opening. And then if we get further than that in the 10 minutes, we can continue, alright? So I think I said white was Adrian and Michael, so let's just start with Adrian. What is one move for white? It's your move. And I won't give you guys any like feedback, alright? So I'm just gonna play whatever move you guys tell me.
E4.
E4, okay. And now let's go to Vishnu. Oh, let me flip the board for you.
Five.
E5 or D5? I didn't hear
E5.
you. D5?
E.
Okay, E. Alright. E5. Okay. How about Michael? A move for white.
Um. We can make a checkmate with the. There's an opening for the bishop. There's kind of an opening.
Okay.
If you switch the king and the bishop.
Alright, so what move do you want me to play?
Like you switch the king and the bishop like.
Oh, like bishop here?
Oh yeah. So it can be defending when the blacks coming right over there.
Okay. Alright, bishop E2. Alright, then for black, how about Mateo? Just think about the opening principles and you should be fine. You're on mute.
Pawn F6.
Okay, pawn F6. Alright, let's go back to white, which is Adrian.
B H5.
Bishop H5.
Yeah, bishop H5.
Okay, now it's bishop H5 check. So, Dave, you have to do something because your king is in danger. It's black to move. Dave. You're on mute.
Uh.
Remember, what are the 3 things you can do when you're in check? CBM. And just choose the best one.
Pawn to G6.
Nice. Okay. Pawn G6. All right. Now, Michael, your bishop is in danger, right? So you should move it.
Yeah. So we can move it back to the center square. The center square.
Try using the notation. So if you want to move it to like, let's say F3, then it's
Yeah, F3.
F3. Okay.
F3 is
Yeah.
All right. Then who's it now? I think it's Vishnu, right? Vishnu. What about for black?
Okay, I'll go bishop to C5.
Bishop C5. Okay, that's a good move. All right, we're developing a bishop into the center. Who's it? Adrian? All right, Adrian, it's your move.
Knight to C3.
All right, Mateo. It's your move as black. You're on mute. Think about the opening principles. You should probably develop one of your pieces, right?
Pawn to C6.
Okay, pawn C6. All right, Michael.
Let's, um, uh, it can be one of the pawns like over here can move over there, so it can be defending the bishop and that other pawn.
So D3 or
Uh, yeah, D3.
D3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, D3.
That's not good.
All right. Next is I think Dave, right? Dave, what is the move for black? you're on mute.
You remove yourself.
Bishop to D4.
All right, bishop d4. All right, then Adrian, it's your move. Your white.
Um, knight to E2.
This knight or this knight?
The next to the rook.
All right, so we say that this is an interesting moment. So both knights can go to e2, right? So the way we say this is the knight, which file it's on. So if we want this knight to go to e2, it's on the c file, right? So we say knight c e2, and that's how we signify that. And if this knight, it's on the g file, so this is knight g e2, and you can see that right here in the notation, knight g e2. Alright, so it's already 7:44, which means that class is almost over, but you guys can see how the opening progressed, right? So we can just quickly go through it. So e4, e5, moving a pawn into center. Bishop e2. It's not a bad move, right? You're at least developing your bishop. Maybe better would have been like bishop c4 to at least attack the center, but not bad. So bishop e2, f6, defending the pawn, not bad. Bishop h5 check, attacking. G6, that was the best move to defend the check. You thought of capture block move, and then you're able to find that the best move was to block, right? The bishop moves, that was good to move the bishop out of the way. Bishop c5, good developing move. Knight c3, good developing. c6, planning to maybe move another pawn into the center. I think probably slightly better could have been like knight c6, because you're trying to develop your pieces quickly, right? You don't want to move too many pawns in the opening. d3, that was good to maybe move your bishop out later. Bishop d4, that was good, attacking the bishop, or attacking our knight. And knight g2, you're defending our knight and attacking the bishop, right? So you guys can see how this opening happened, right? You had multiple players on your team, and it was hard to coordinate what idea you wanted, right? So it's hard to make a plan, and that's what we're gonna talk about next time, making a plan. Because making a plan is gonna be super important. When it's only you playing the game, you don't have any help from your friends, then you can choose a plan for yourself, and you can choose to attack, you can choose to play more strategically, more positionally. There's a lot of different plans, right? And it's important to choose a proper plan based on how you like to play. Okay then, so I think that was a pretty good class. So if nobody has any questions, then yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. I'll see you guys next class is on Wednesday, 7 p.m. All right, bye.
I'm staying. I'm staying.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I'm staying. I'm staying. Bye.